my daughter was saying her prayers. Eve, she was 6 years old at the time. And she was saying her prayers and she said the cutest thing. I thought it was so cute. And I started laughing. She said, "Dear Heavenly Father, please help me to survive."
She smiles and talks like a regular mum, but there is something strange and frightening about a 6-year-old child praying to survive.
If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
This is Ruby Franke, a mum who put herself, her family and her parenting techniques on the internet for the world to see on a channel called 8 Passengers. The number of fans attracted to the channel grew, but so did the number of critics who did not agree with her parenting style.
I am very aware of people online who hate me.
Years later, this YouTube channel disappeared, but the internet never forgets. Those long deleted videos have resurfaced and will now be used as evidence in child abuse charges. Things have taken a drastic turn for the YouTube mum, who now faces 6 counts of child abuse charges. Join us as we highlight the rise and fall of Ruby Franke. It all began on the 30th of August 2023 at around 10:15 p.m. in Ivins, Utah. A family called 911 to report that a 12-year-old boy had knocked on their door and requested food and water.
Police say this is the house a young child escaped from and went to a neighbor's house asking for food and water.
He had duct tape on his wrists and ankles, meaning he had been bound for some time. Even worse, the boy had some open wounds and told them he had jumped from the window of the house he was staying in.
Said he had just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay. Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio. And he asked us to call the police.
What's
So
his
he's
name?
very afraid. His ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why.
Yeah.
But he has duct tape around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around them. I think there's a good chance he's been...
He also said...
Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. Ruby Franke is his mom's name.
At this point, the Franke House of Horrors was about to be exposed. It is absurd that so many people tried to save these children for so long, but the Child Protective Services and other relevant organizations did nothing. To paint the full picture of the case, we would now go back decades in the past. Chad and Jennifer Griffith welcomed their daughter Ruby into the world on the 18th of January 1982. She is the eldest of her 4 siblings, and they were all raised in Utah as devoted Mormons. Ruby enrolled at Utah State University after high school. There she majored in accounting and ran into Kevin Franke. Just like Ruby, Kevin's parents were followers of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was a match made in heaven, wouldn't you say? At the age of 18 and 22, Ruby and Kevin got married on the 28th of December 2000, after only a brief period of dating. After 3 years of marriage, Ruby and Kevin had their first child, a daughter they named Shari, after Kevin's mother. Chad, their second child, was born in 2005. Abby and Julie followed in 2007 and 2009, and Russell was born in 2011. Before welcoming their youngest daughter Eve in 2013, Ruby and Kevin had suffered from 2 miscarriages. Kevin Franke eventually relocated his family to Washington so he could finish his master's degree at Brigham Young University. Ruby left college after they had children and devoted herself to being a stay-at-home mum. And what better way to make money than by staying at home? Start a YouTube channel. 2 years after the birth of their last child, Eve, Ruby, and Kevin uploaded their first YouTube video sometime in January 2015. Family vlogging channels were very popular at the time on YouTube, which is probably why the Franke family channel, called 8 Passengers, quickly attracted 1 million subscribers.
Wow, okay. What do you think?
I like it.
You like it? You are like ready for school, girl.
The family's channel was run mostly by Ruby. It focused on the routine duties of a stay-at-home mother, such as preparing meals, getting kids ready for school, going on outings, vacations, and attending church. When their channel first started, they quickly gathered a devoted fan base of subscribers who enjoyed and related to their content.
How many of you out there play tennis?
It's horrible.
Eventually, they had about 2.5 million subscribers at their peak. This is a whole lot, and as you can imagine, the 8-passenger channel attracted a lot of sponsors who were smart enough to take advantage of the fact that this channel already attracted millions of mums. Imagine having your target audience all in one place. You would definitely shove your domestic goods in their faces. Ruby herself claimed that during this time, sponsorship brought millions of dollars into their channel.
No amount of money. And I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt.
The channel was so popular that Ruby's siblings also started their own YouTube channels. Unfortunately for Ruby, things would not stay peachy. Soon enough, problems began to arise. Now we can all agree that most YouTubers receive some form of criticism and hate, but occasionally, some helpful criticism and comments that are laced with real concerns can get lost in the crowd and be branded as hateful or trolling. As you're about to see, that was the case for the 8-passenger channel.
You're lashing very well. And I'm going to pretend that life is exactly how I want it.
Since the inception of the channel, Ruby has come across her fair share of haters and trolls. Or so you would think. You see, even then, not everyone agreed with the kind of content Ruby and Kevin published about their kids online. Yes, there were the fun, happy, and memorable milestones, but Ruby did not stop there, as you would expect. Ruby posted seemingly everything from the good to the bad and ugly. Every now and then, Ruby filmed the kids' most embarrassing moments, their medical information, and information about their academic progress, and was not afraid to put it all online for the world to see. Many people believed the Franks were violating their children's privacy, and commenters frequently expressed worry that their entire lives were being posted online, which might negatively impact their mental health. But Ruby continued using her kids in the video's sponsorship segments. One time, she made one of her kids discuss using overnight diapers for bedwetting, even though they were in elementary school. We can all agree that the last thing any kid at that age would want is for their friends to learn about a bedwetting habit, right? However, 8Passengers wasn't the only YouTube channel facing this kind of criticism. Over time, more and more channels appeared, with creators debating the morality of posting children online for profit. What do you think? Do you think people were tuning in to watch Ruby and Kevin go about their daily boring lives? We would argue that the kids made the videos exciting and interesting. Sure, there are some child actors who actually go to work to support their families, but most of the time, those kids genuinely enjoy what they do and want to keep doing it to improve their skills. And of course, child actors don't always have the camera on them. They show up for work and are only meant to be on set for a short amount of time each day and then go home. This way, they can still be normal kids and live their lives like kids their age. This is not the same for children who find themselves being featured on family vlogs. Sadly, there will always be a camera shoved in their face. Most days, it will be from when they wake up to when they go to bed. What about the extreme cases where a vlogger puts a camera in front of their newborn? Some would argue that this is not necessarily a bad thing, but hey, that's not up for debate today. So back to Ruby. Ruby allegedly went as far as putting intimate moments online for viewers to see. Moments like the girls' first time shaving their legs, bra shopping, going on dates, going to the doctor, and even being sick on the bathroom floor. These children will not want these things to be published on YouTube for millions of people to see. They may not know how to express it, or they will just generally believe that their parents know better. Then, the biggest one yet is Ruby's parenting style. As some of the children got older, Ruby began putting their disciplinary styles out there for the world to see. We think that the one thing the Frank family channel had going for them was the large family size. According to the numbers, the larger and more dynamic a family is, the greater the chances of success for a family vlog. So for 7 years, this criticism on quote did not have any effect on the growth of the 8Passenger channel, but then it became more glaring. The more Ruby continued to consciously highlight her parenting and disciplinary principles, the more people began to see.
I'm only gonna say it one more time, and then you're gonna lose the privilege to eat dinner. If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm gonna cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad!
So what are you gonna do?
Are you gonna cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama. I just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry, and hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Videos like this sparked a whole new discussion as some viewers started to worry about the safety of these kids. In 2020, a video was posted to the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, and it quickly became the internet's most popular red flag. In this video, the second oldest brother, Chad, had just admitted that he'd actually gotten into trouble for playing a practical joke on one of his younger brothers, and that's why he had to sleep on a beanbag chair for 7 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he's like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. Abby, we took the phone away from Abby in November. And you may never get the phone back.
Probably not.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I literally like told my friends I'm not hanging out with them anymore
Because they're
they say some pretty messed up stuff.
I don't even know where they live. They're pretty far away.
So, summer goal, become the best athlete I possibly can.
Wouldn't you agree that kids play pranks all the time? And while these pranks can get out of hand, it is certainly not enough reason to be denied access to a bed for 7 months. There was also a brief mention of some wilderness therapy camp that Chad was forced to attend. These wilderness camps have such a bad reputation that most people see them as glorified prisons. Why would anyone send their kids there? As soon as this video was uploaded, many rumors about child abuse started circulating. Conversations were opened about how this wasn't the right thing for them to be doing, and how to help Chad and the other kids. However, the Franke parents responded that they were teaching their kids about the consequences of their actions.
Unless you find a friend who's willing to share some of their food with you, I don't think you're going to be able to eat. But if you're not responsible for your lunch and your lunch money, that's the natural consequence. And I'm really sorry you're learning this the hard way. I will have a wonderful, yummy snack. Just hang in there today and just make up your mind. You're going to be really careful and make sure you grab your stuff when you go to school next time. And maybe you have a good friend who will share some of their sandwich with you or something. Russell, I'm really sorry. He sounded like he was going to cry.
Concerned viewers analysed these videos and then signed petitions to persuade the appropriate authorities to take action. Utah's Child and Family Services eventually got involved, but the case was closed after they allegedly found no evidence. Yet there were multiple visits to the Franke home, but the CPS was no doubt fooled by a pretty face with nothing but claims that she was a good mother, the recent target of cancel culture. Ruby stated that the real reason Chad was out of his room and out of his bed was because he was sharing a bed with his younger brother, and therapists had advised that they be separated after they had encountered a few incidents. In addition, Ruby pointed out that she offers choices and teaches her children the consequences of their actions by saying that Chad had a few options regarding what he wanted to sleep on, and that he ultimately chose the beanbag. Then in 2022, the 8-passenger channel vanished entirely. Ruby claimed that she had stopped uploading videos to protect her children from the constant advice of their fans. However, Ruby's time on YouTube was far from over. You see, around this time, she got involved with another channel called Connections as some kind of mental health coach with her business partner, Jody Hildenbrand. This YouTube channel made the claim that perfect honesty, strict personal responsibility, and vulnerable humility can help people successfully navigate life. A lot of big words to pull vulnerable people in will give them that. It was advertised as a mum support group, but upon closer inspection, it seemed more like a cult.
So the invitation is, and the hope is that all of the moms that come here learn how and practice plugging in principles of truth into these different circumstances.
4 principles of truth are about learning how to be honest, learning how to be responsible. Responsible for what? Your own perceptions, your own feelings, your own actions.
Jody Hildenbrandt frequently referred to mothers as the mums of truth and asserted that parents were only required to share the gospel with their children and use whatever means were necessary to save them, as opposed to loving, encouraging, nurturing, and taking care of their children. At this point, you might be wondering who she was to offer such counsel, right? It turns out that Jody had been pretending to be a licensed therapist, but had actually lost her license for allegedly stealing patient information. She allegedly went to the Mormon church to confess what a couple had been discussing with her in their private sessions about their porn addiction about a year earlier. Parenting classes would eventually start to be offered by the Connections channel for online purchase. From these sales, Ruby and Jody generated thousands of dollars each month.
I know that I am not the only mom who has spent much of her time looking for a program or a class or some kind of curriculum that I could share with my child, where my child would easily understand and learn about their value and their potential and to inspire them.
You can no longer find this channel on YouTube as well. According to a spokesperson for YouTube, the channel was terminated because it violated the rules regarding creator responsibility. This brings us back to the 30th of August 2023. When the police showed up in the area, they discovered that the 12-year-old boy who had fled his home was none other than Russell Franke, and that Jody Hildenbrandt was the owner of the house he had fled from. Then they went to Jody's house, where they also discovered another child. That child was 10-year-old Eve. She appeared underweight and initially refused to go to the hospital to receive medical care. On the same day, Ruby Franke was detained on suspicion of 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and her business partner, Jody Hildenbrandt, was also taken into custody. Thankfully, new evidence continues to emerge each day since that time to further solidify the case. 4 of the Franke children were taken into custody of the CPS: Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. The other 2 children, Shari and Chad, were believed to be adults at the time, as they were not still being watched and taken care of by their mother. Shari Franke, the oldest, is now 20 years old. Although she wasn't residing with the family at the time of the arrest, she did make her way there and went on to post a picture of the scene online with the caption, "Finally." In fact, Shari was estranged from her family because she had moved out a while earlier. She publicly left her family in 2020 after they enrolled in this Connections classroom because she thought the viewpoints were wrong and dangerous. She was able to recognize that her parents' beliefs weren't appropriate around that time she started college. This is why child abuse cases like this are so heartbreaking. These kids don't know any better and believe whatever their parents do to them is normal. Imagine Russell saying that all he endured was his fault.
He says what's happened to him is his fault.
According to reports, it took the investigators about 4 hours to get him to talk about all he went through. It took Shari leaving for college to realize she did not grow up under the best circumstances. Shortly after she left, their father, Kevin, and her brother Chad left the house too, leaving Ruby and the 4 youngest children alone in the Franke house. Later, Ruby cut off her siblings and her parents as well. Ruby had talked about cutting ties with her family in one Connection class earlier. She explained that even though she indoctrinates her kids, a little bit of outside family influence could still contaminate them.
I have been full-time. You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. And I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it, and I'm not going to lose them.
As a result, she cut them off and was left with Jody as the main person in her life. In the meantime, a search warrant was obtained and the investigators discovered evidence that matched Russell's injuries. Some other incriminating information about Ruby and her partner Jody has also been made public via the arrest affidavit, one of which is the earliest clue that Jody was involved in the neglect and abuse, or at the very least aware of it. This was the fact that the investigators discovered gauze in her bathroom. bathroom, as well as the existence of a panic room or safe room in Jodi's garage. When brought into custody, 41-year-old Ruby Franke immediately asked for a lawyer. Isn't this an indirect admission of guilt? Getting legal representation would not be the first thing a mother innocent of child abuse would think of. You would expect to hear her ask about the well-being of her kids and all of that. Due to the severity of her two children's injuries, Ruby Franke was denied bail. After that, 6 counts of felony child abuse charges were brought against Ruby and Jodi.
Influencer Ruby Franke has officially been charged with 6 counts of felony child abuse. Ruby, known for her YouTube channel 8 Passengers, and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested on aggravated child abuse charges August 30th.
On the 7th of September, there was a hearing at the juvenile court to decide the future custody of the 4 children in state custody. In a shocking statement, Ruby is said to have informed the court that one of her minor children had been sexually abusing a younger sibling for years and had confessed to abusing 20 people back in May, and that they had also started watching porn at the age of 3. Whether this was true or just an attempt to cause an uproar during a hearing, the judge did rule that the child in question would not be placed in a home with other kids. Jodi Hildebrandt was also denied bail. It is a long road ahead for the 2 defendants, as each of the child abuse charges against Jodi and Ruby could result in a 10 to 15-year prison sentence. Notably, they are currently being held in separate jails. In addition to multiple physical wounds from torture, the children also clearly suffered from starvation and malnutrition, which not only endangered their lives, but also caused severe emotional harm. This will be the argument by the state attorneys. The next court appearance was scheduled for the next day, being the 8th of September 2023 in St. George, Utah, but it had to be rescheduled, and the public was subsequently barred from attending because the virtual hearing was overrun by thousands of people trying to tune in. Around that time, an alleged cousin of Jodi Hildebrandt sat for an interview in which she claimed that their family has a long history of child abuse, including the use of duct tape, and that this case has deeper roots than the public is aware of.
So the things that I experienced while living with Jodi, I experienced being tied, I experienced being duct taped, I experienced being blindfolded, I experienced severe isolation, I experienced severe emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse. I experienced the being told I shouldn't be around other people, being told that I was dangerous to be around. People were afraid of me to the point where I was afraid of myself.
She also shed some light on the sexual accusations brought up in court about the Franke child.
And she is remarkably convincing. She is also terrifying if you cross her, because she has and will systematically destroy your life. She destroys your reputation. She destroys any of your credibility. So even because there are definitely people that have been speaking out against her, because one, we have a culture of people not believing children and not trusting children, and also children trust their parents, and then the parents trust the church. So there's been, and Jodi, what she does that's so tricky is that she utilizes and uses whatever is available. So if you go to her with OCD, if you go to her with severe depression, she'll use that information as a way of control. Oh, you have OCD because you have deep-rooted shame, and those tics are happening because the shame has nowhere to go, and so it's coming out in this neuroticism. And yeah, so it's devastating, because I went forward as well. I mean, I went to the police when I was 16. I tried to do what I could, and no one believed me, because why would they? She destroyed my credibility. I was an angry teenager. The only reason why I'm coming forward, I was not planning on coming forward to the media other than just doing the podcast interview, is when I heard that Ruby accused her child of this, because and I just hope that this can give the public some context and some clarity of what is happening and why they should not believe her.
At this point, you might be wondering what will happen to Kevin Franke. The father of the children has since retained legal counsel and has started his battle to get custody of his children so they can be together. His lawyer has also asserted that he and Ruby had been apart for more than a year and that he played no part in the alleged abuse. It is a heartbreaking case, and the Franke children may need to heal for the rest of their lives, but hopefully getting justice will mark the beginning of that.